Hey everybody, this week I wanted to talk about drone photography again. Now, not the traditional type that we talked about. Now, you know that I've talked about drones being held and walked through places using their stabilization on it. But let's talk about drone photography. Now, there's multiple types of drone equipment, right? You have the traditional things that most people are familiar with, a small camera mounted to the front of a drone, but you have bigger ones that actually can handle a normal photography camera attached to the belly with a control of some kind, either a cable going down to the camera to control it from the drone or some wireless connection through it. And it will manipulate the camera to move a regular full-sized camera around. But putting all that aside, there's a bunch of things that you can do in drone photography that you may or may not think of. Now, we talked in a previous episode of about drone photography, right? The ability to, about real estate drone photography. The ability to fly around a house, let people get a feel for what the view looks like, for example, by hovering the drone at normal height and looking out a window inside the house even. You could do some of this stuff with your handheld camera, but being able to get to do a fly around of the house, being able to fly up to the house and give people the sense that they're walking up to their home is very easy to do with a drone, and the right ability of the pilot, let's put it that way, the capability of the pilot to fly it in a slow pattern to get it where you want it to be so it looks the way you want it to look. But there's other types of photography as well. You can, for example, fly around a house, right, and use that to render a three-dimensional model. Now, typically, these are done at different levels. And there's a whole bunch of software out there. We're not talking about something like Meshi or an AI program that will knit those together and render it into a three-dimensional ones. There's a lot of commercial programs out there that will do this, especially for drone photography. So if you were tasked, for example, to take pictures of a shopping plaza, right? Especially one of those strip mall types, you would be able to fly the drone, and you're going to fly it at just about ground level, at the height that you'd be looking at. So obviously you're not going to want people in the parking lot and things. You're going to want it on an off time. And then you're going to fly it a little bit higher, so it's kind of looking down a little bit and then higher again, so it can catch the extra information about what's on the roof and the structures of the roof and things. All those pictures are then knitted together to make a three-dimensional representation of the real estate object that you just photographed, so that people can get a walk-around view of it and they can control it themselves. Right? They're not you're not flying around the building and giving them a video of it. You're actually taking photographs as you go, and those photographs are then knitted together to make this three-dimensional object, or the video is knitted together to make a three-dimensional object, because all a video is a collection of still photographs. But this allows the potential buyer, for example, to look around the building at their leisure, the way they want to, and look at the spots that they're interested in. This can also be brought into a construction site, right? If you're tasked with taking photographs of a construction site so that the company can keep track of what's going on at the site without having to send somebody there or to physically be present to see it. They can see the progress. And again, this is something that could be rendered into 3 dimensions so they can see how it looks as a 3-dimensional object and not just at the ground level that you're taking photographs at. You can also do it for fields and for crop purposes, or to see how overgrown something has become. You could be doing a real estate survey of a property to see what it actually looks like. A homeowner may ask you to do a survey of their vacation home that somebody has been tending to and getting cleaned up for them to come up, and they may want to see what it looks like before they get there. Or they may want to see what the place looks like after the winter has been completed, so they can get a feel for what they need to have somebody come in and do before they show up. I personally don't know anybody who does any of that stuff. I don't know that many rich people, so but it's something you could be tasked to do. You could fly over to get photographs, again, flying a pattern, not just a single flyover, but just like the rest of the stuff we're talking about, patterns, flying a pattern for the Forestry Service to get a feel for what do we really need to get in there and take care of for shrubbery, for example, or dead trees. So you think about before the leaves are back on the trees, flying back and forth over an area to give people a reference point for where the dead trees are. I do that with my own property. I have 13 acres, and by flying the drone and letting it fly on that pattern, pointed down, taking photographs, which can then be knitted together. But for me, the more important thing is just running through that video to see where the trees are. Now, the advantage of having that put together into a structure is it basically gives you a map, right? If you're just watching the video and saying, oh, there's a tree, where am I, right? Where is that tree in relationship to, for example, the house? But by doing a flyover the entire and having those pictures knitted together using an orthogonal program, it will allow you to have a quick reference of where things are that you need to take care of out in your yard, for example, or to have somebody come in and take care of, or where the dead trees are. Is there a lightning struck tree, whatever there is in the yard? So that's another type of drone photography you could be involved in. So there's a lot of different types of things you can do with the drone that aren't just doing those cinematographic shots, right? Doing those kind of routines as practice will help you no matter what you do with your drone, but you won't be doing a movie shot, right? You're going to be doing a very technical shot. There's also the flying over roofs to see where there could be issues with the roof or potential problems with the roof. And then there's the thermal ones. And I don't really see a lot of people talking about these. I've seen them talk about some of the roof stuff, and they kind of touch on this with the roof, but they don't really do much. And that is, if you've got a drone with a thermal camera, right, you can fly around a building in the summer and find the cool spots. Where is the air conditioning, if the building's air conditioned, leaching out? Where could we put some more insulation in to protect that? Now, the advantage of doing that over the summer, obviously, is because if you do it in the winter and you're looking for the heat coming out, you're probably not as capable at that time of the year to do something about the insulation as you would be in nicer weather, right? So it's you can look at it as a air conditioning type of thing. Do we need to replace the windows? Again, you want to know that a little bit more now than in the winter. Otherwise, you're just going to have to wait till the winter's over. But it allows you to get that thermal view of the building and create a model of where the issues could be for both heating and cooling leaks. So I just wanted to give you guys, talk a little bit more about drones. We haven't done that as much on this channel in the past, but I've done drone photography as a real estate photographer, and kind of in a different pattern than what I was describing. So unlike where you might have a house and you might want to see what the view looks like from the house, with a business commercial property, it was less about what was around the commercial property, which I thought would be a cool thing to know that, right down the street is some place to eat, because if you're going to use it for office space, that makes it convenient. But it was more distance views of where the building was in relationship to just everything, and not so much the what was around the building, but what the area really looked like. It was based off of something that Google had done, so we were doing something similar, and that was like going a quarter mile out from the building and photographing aiming the drone at the building and letting the building be seen, and taking some video, flying along one edge or taking photographs that way. It was, like I said, a very different type of photography. Again, always when you're dealing with a client, make sure that you're both speaking the same language when it comes to photographs. For example, if you're talking about taking photographs from the building, what does that mean? Are you making the building the center? Or are you using the building as the center and then showing the pattern of things that are around it? But again, different drone photography options that are available out there. Just look around and see what you got, and be creative. I mean, it's quite possible that certain places like the Forestry Service might not think about using your services, but they may not think about them being available even, especially if they don't have their own gear. And let's face it, a lot of the government agencies don't necessarily have their own gear. And again, bear in mind, if you are a government agency, there might be some restrictions on the gear you can use, whereas if you bring in a contractor, it may or may not be the same. That's what I got for you guys this week, and I will talk to you all next week.